Hi, my name's Penny. Welcome to my April wrap-up. So I already did like a mid-month wrap-up, so this will be kind of where I talk in detail about the books I read in the last half of the month. So in total, in April, I read 15 books, which I'm pretty happy with. To be honest though, the first half of the month I read 10 of them, and the last half of the month was just 5. And I already did like a mid-month wrap-up for the first 10 books, so today I'm mostly going to talk about the last 5. So firstly, let's talk about audiobooks. So during the beginning of the month, I did read Ready Player One by Ernest Cline, and also All Are Wrong Todays by Elan Mastai, but I won't talk about those today. What I did read in the end of the month, or listen to, was Scion of Cyador. Is that how you say it? Sounds weird saying it out loud. Scion of Cyador. Is that even how you say Scion? I don't know. Anyway, that's by Modesitt Jr. This is the 12th, 13th book in the series. It's a long series. I'm trying to get through them all. I'm pretty much just taking them all out of the library and listening to them until I finish the series, which I think is about 20 books. I've still got quite a few to go. Some of them are really long. So most of the books in this series do follow completely different characters, and the stories are quite standalone, but this story did follow on from the previous one, which was Magi of Cyador, and I am really glad that the story finished off, because when I finished Magi of Cyador, I honestly was shouting, are you fucking kidding me? That cannot be the end. Like, there's this guy called Lorne, and he just kind of mucks around. He is gonna be a mage. This was set in this world where there's like white chaos power and also black order power. He's gonna be a white mage in this land that's kind of ruled by white mages. So he's going to be a white mage, but the white mages won't keep you if you're not completely dedicated to chaos magic, and so he's not, so he gets kicked out. He goes and becomes a lancer and goes and fights all these wars for the country, and he's also married to this merchantess. So those are kind of like the 3 groups that have power in the country: the merchantess, the mages, and the lancers. So he kind of has like an aspect of all of them, and he is kind of just going about his business. A lot of people are trying to kill him for some reason. There's a lot of stuff going on that I don't really understand. I don't really care. It's an okay story. It does go on a bit, just kind of like following his life. But the first book just ended and nothing had happened. He just kind of like mucked around and then come back home. The end. And it was pointless. But the second book did continue, and it ended with like quite a clear kind of resolution, which I was really glad for. Again, I don't really know that I can recommend this series. It is very just practical and following someone's story. What I do really like about this series is it has this whole order and chaos magic and a lot of just, I don't know, philosophy about life. And I really enjoy it, but it is a lot to get through. I definitely am glad I found the audiobooks because I can listen to it on my commute, and that's much more enjoyable, but I don't think I could get through those long books by actually reading them now. I just don't think I could do it. Now, I know I said that I read 15 things this month, but to be honest, 7 of them were the first 7 volumes of Saga. I read the first 6 in the first half of the month, this one in the second half of the month, and I do have the 8th one from the library as well, so I'll be reading that soon. I do have somewhat mixed feelings about this series. I do enjoy it, and I think actually this one was one of my favorites. There were a few things that happened that I found interesting, and also kind of, this is like a Romeo and Juliet set in space. These 2 different groups, these people are 2 different races who are at war, and they've ended up having a baby together, and now everybody wants to kill them. In this one, the baby is starting to grow up a bit. She's still quite young, but she's getting to an age where she is doing interesting stuff on her own, and I am totally hyped to see more of her story rather than her parents or any of the other characters, except maybe some of the other kids. I'm really into the kids of the story, so I'm waiting for them to grow up. I'm hoping in the 8th one that maybe they'll be a bit more grown up. Maybe, maybe not. Then I also read 2 more graphic novels, so it was the first 2 and the last 2 volumes of Josie and the Pussycats. So I have this vague memory of watching Josie and the Pussycats as a child, but I actually think that maybe I only ever watched it once. But I still somehow have this memory that I like Josie and the Pussycats. But if I watched it once, can I really say? I don't know, but I love this cover. I especially am kind of in love with Mel. And there are definitely some really amazing frames in this comic series. Like some bits I really loved those single bits. But the overall story, I'm just not really that into it, to be honest. I really feel like only Josie really gets a proper storyline and the others are just support characters, which I was really disappointed in. I think the main thing that turned me off this was there's just a lot of in-jokes and pop culture references, and most of them are ones that I don't get, so it just kind of makes me feel like I don't even know what's going on. I think, if you think of Gilmore Girls has a lot of pop culture references, or just references of all sorts, and most of those go over my head, but the show is written in a way where it doesn't matter if you don't get all the references. It's just like a bonus if you do, whereas this, so much of it is just references. You're like, why is this even happening? So yeah, a bit disappointing, but a quick read, as graphic novels often are. So I think it was probably worth reading for the really, really good moments, but yeah, I'm still really on a search for graphic novels that I will really love. I have had some recommendations which I'm going to try and get soon, but so far they just always seem to disappoint me a bit. Anyway, let's briefly touch on physical books. I only read 1 physical book this month, which is a bit crazy, and that was Magic Burns by Alona Andrew, which is the first book? Second book, I think. Second book. The second book in the Kate Daniels series, which I'm rereading in preparation for the new release that's coming out later in the year, which I'm super excited for. And I already talked about this in my mid-month wrap-up, but I really loved it. I'm really looking forward to reading more books in the series, and I've just remembered I need to add the next one onto my TBR for May. Remember that when you're editing. This is a reminder for you. But yeah, I didn't read any other physical books, which was a bit disappointing, mainly because normally I read physical books just before bed, and I've been playing Animal Crossing instead, which is bad because it makes me sleep worse, but oh well. Okay, so I also read this month 2 ebooks, which again isn't very many in my opinion. The first one was a short one, which is Sight Witch by Susan Dennard, which is kind of like a prequel novella for the Truth Witch series. Talk about that in my mid-month wrap-up, won't go into it here. It was okay. I also read one other ebook, and I think this is part of why I didn't read much in the second half of the month, because I was kind of, Animal Crossing, of course, but also because this kind of just was a bit of a slog to get through, which is a bit of a shame. So what it was Zenith by Sasha Alsberg and Lindsey Cummings. So I've seen a lot of mixed reviews about this book, so I wanted to read it myself to see what I think, even though really I don't think I'm the target market for it at all, although Space Pirates might make you think that it is, because Space Pirates is totally something I'd be into. But that sales pitch of Space Pirates is kind of misleading, because it makes you think that it's going to be a very action heavy series or novel, book, whatever. It makes you think it's going to be really action heavy, but actually, I think it was a much more character-based novel, and because it's really aimed at a younger audience, a lot of the angst that these characters are going through is just something that I could not relate to. I just think in general they were terrible at communication and very whiny about stuff that didn't matter. While they were in the middle of a fight, they're like going, oh, I'm so worried about this stupid thing. And I can see, though, that there are some redeeming factors. So I can see why some people did like it, which explains, I think, kind of the mixed reviews. I think if you really are the target market for this book, you might enjoy it. But if you're older and you've maybe read quite a lot and you're looking for more of a plot, then you'll probably be disappointed. But if you're kind of interested in some interesting characters that have some drama going on, then maybe you'll like it. I mean, to be honest, I did also think the world building wasn't fully formed. It could have been explored better, in my opinion. I don't really know how, but I did get the feeling, I guess I felt like there had been quite a lot of world building, but at a very kind of shallow level. Like, I didn't really understand how any of these worlds could work, but I'm basing that on like books like Brandon Sanderson and Patrick Rothfuss that have amazing world building, and that's probably not really fair to expect. But there was definitely an effort to build these, like, this kind of galaxy of different worlds and this exciting, like, different cultures, and kind of there's definitely a history. Actually, that's another thing I didn't really like. It does switch between kind of the protagonists. It actually switches between a lot of characters, and some of them are the bad guys and some of them are the good guys, and their stories start out quite separate and they come together, but sometimes it's like you're in the middle of a battle scene over here and suddenly you're over here listening to this other character talk about their childhood, and I honestly don't care about their childhood. I personally think that some of the historical stuff, although I understand why they wanted to put it in, I think it would have been better as a novella, separate. So like you read the main story of the main characters, and then when you're like, oh, I wonder what that bad guy was up to, why were they even doing that? Then you could go and read the novella and find out. I think that would have been better. Myself, I would have enjoyed that better. Especially this was a really long book. It didn't need to be that long. But yes, I can see why some people liked it. It definitely had some redeeming qualities, but not my fave. So, that was all the books I read in April. I mean, in some ways it wasn't really a good reading month in that I would say I didn't really love anything that I read, but I'm still happy to get through what I did, and it kept me entertained. I had some other shit going on in life, so it was good to have a little bit of entertainment. That's what reading is, huh? Anyway, if you've read any of the books that I mentioned today, please let me know down in the comments. I'd love to talk to you about your opinion of them, or let me know based on my opinions of those books if you think there's any other books that I would like to read. I hope that your month of April was a better reading month than mine, at least in quality, if not quantity, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching.